Theological history is stalled on a single paradox: the attempt to reconcile an absolutely sovereign creator with meaningful human free will. When a system attempts to run infinite control and absolute freedom simultaneously, the logic enters a deadlock. The network freezes. This crash is the result of the fatalism bug, the assumption that divine predestination operates as hard-coded determinism, where every human action is pre-written. This logic leads to two specific outputs. Users either surrender to apathy, assuming their choices carry no weight, or they reject the system entirely, concluding that a deterministic architect who scripts human suffering is inherently malicious. By applying modern IT systems architecture to the original biblical texts, we can reverse engineer this problem. We can decompile the ancient code to see where the modern interpretation diverges from the structural design. Through an architectural lens, predestination functions as an open-source protocol. It is an environment designed to facilitate radical user agency rather than override it. Entering this framework requires epistemic humility. The architecture we are building is a defensible model, not a claim to have accessed the universe's ultimate source code. Solving the predestination paradox requires a mental operating system robust enough to process dynamic relationships, moving beyond the binary logic of strict determinism. To read the original documentation, we must decompile the foundational Greek word historically translated as predestination. That word is proorizo. In its historical context, proorizo means setting a fixed boundary. It describes locking in the ultimate destination for a specific vessel. This diagram shows a large ship on a locked linear path toward a target destination. While the vessel operates on a fixed trajectory, the individual passengers on the deck move in randomized, independent patterns. In object-oriented programming, the ship is a rescue vehicle class. Its destination property is a locked, hard-coded parameter. The overarching vehicle is programmed to reach salvation, but the individual user instances operating beneath it retain dynamic read and write access. These user instances hold the necessary permissions to independently evaluate the vehicle. They decide whether or not to board. The fatalism bug arises when the hard-coded parameters of the vehicle are mapped directly onto the dynamic user instances, creating a category error in the system's logic. If the root admin writes flawless code, the presence of malware, human evil, and suffering requires explanation. Why does the codebase allow it to execute? This diagram maps the environment into two zones. On the left is the active will, the secure, locked admin partition. On the right is the permissive will, an open sandbox partition, separated by a firewall. Philosopher Alvin Plantinga mapped this out in the free will defense. Open-sourcing genuine love inherently requires an isolated sandbox of uncoerced freedom. When client nodes are granted absolute freedom, some nodes will generate destructive outputs. Localized malware corruption is a systemic probability. The architecture isolates this malware, but it also repurposes it. This is known as the Iranian soul-naking algorithm. This graph plots a machine learning training environment. The y-axis represents suffering and error, while the x-axis tracks iterations. Here, suffering acts as an intentional loss function. A loss function calculates the delta between a user's current state and the optimal state. It captures the friction of those errors and uses it to train the model for the next iteration. The root admin processes this friction to continuously train user instances. Exposure to system stress facilitates the development of moral resilience and anti-fragility. A perfectly secure architecture with zero potential for error is a deterministic loop. It would be secure, but incapable of generating authentic love or resilient agency. Combining the object-oriented vehicle class and the sandbox firewall results in a framework known as corporate election. Corporate election ensures the overarching rescue vehicle reaches its destination, regardless of the malware generated by individual nodes inside the sandbox. This leaves a critical disaster recovery problem. How does the root admin redeem corrupted nodes without breaching the sandbox's free will firewall? An external hotfix, a patch imposed forcefully from outside the system, would override user agency. In theology, that forced external intervention is known as deism. Instead, the theological incarnation functions as an internal codebase refactoring. The solution is compiled and executed directly from within the compromised environment. The massive central data core compresses its full architecture, downloading its entire operational capacity into a single standard node. The root admin becomes a client node. By entering the sandbox, the admin absorbs the system's errors directly through full, unprotected participation. This internal refactoring aligns with an architecture where the admin maintains the integrity of the sandbox, opting to operate within its constraints rather than overriding them. In the deployment phase, this unified architecture alters the daily user experience. Identifying the system's dynamic, open-source nature addresses the core logic of the fatalism bug within the user's mental framework. Users enter an operational state of radical agency, where their inputs become significant to the system's output. The vast network expands as interconnected nodes light up. New, vital pathways are dynamically forged by active user decisions. Because the root admin chooses not to bypass the sandbox firewall, user decisions carry cumulative weight within the system's execution. This establishes the ultimate directive for daily operations, the epistemic humility protocol. Nodes must operate productively and empathetically, even while navigating deep systemic uncertainty. Client nodes are limited by their hardware. We do not have read access to the universe's foundational source code. Divine sovereignty operates as an infinitely responsive architecture, inviting users to participate in coding the system's future state.